This story begins in the 1970s, an era when television documented chaos and beamed horror directly into American homes, while also offering comfort to an anxious nation. On April 4, 1971, the first episode of Night Owls aired, and the UBC network's hopes for a late-night hit rested on the shoulders of its host, a popular Chicago radio personality named Jack Delroy. With his entertaining blend of interviews, music, and comedy sketches, Night Owls captured the hearts of midnight America, and 5 nights a week, Jack helped an anxious nation forget its troubles. In November 1972, Jack signed a 5-year contract with the owner of UBC, and with an Emmy nomination to his name and a growing audience, Jack had his sights set on the coveted late-night crown. By Jack's side through it all was his wife, the beloved stage actress Madeline Piper. Despite Jack's relentless pursuit of being number one, they were considered one of show business's happiest and most enduring couples. Madeline was his muse and confidant, but she wasn't his only source of support. Jack's association with The Grove, an exclusive men's club located in the California Redwoods, had been the subject of rumors since his radio days. Established in the 19th century and counting politicians, artists, and captains of industry among its members, The Grove had long presented itself as a harmless summer camp for the rich and powerful. However, speculation swirled regarding its taste for arcane ceremonies and its power to make or break careers. 4 seasons in, and the ratings still failed to match Carson's. Nominations piled up, but no trophies arrived, and Jack's reputation as the eternal runner-up began to weigh on him, for he knew history only remembers kings. Then, in September 1976, Jack's world was turned upside down when Madeline, a non-smoker, was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. In October, Madeline made a special appearance on the show. It was the highest-rated episode in Night Owl's history, yet it still fell 1 point short of Carson. 2 weeks later, Madeline died, and a grieving Jack fled the media, left New York, and his whereabouts remained unknown. Just a month later, and to everyone's surprise, UBC announced his return. However, the gap between Jack and Carson continued to widen, so Jack and his longtime producer Leo did everything possible to stir up controversy in an attempt to boost viewership. But ratings were in freefall, sponsors were nervous, and Jack's contract was about to expire. Everything was on the line as Sweeps Week began on Halloween night, 1977, and a desperate Jack planned an episode he hoped would turn his luck around. What we are about to watch is the recently discovered master tape of what aired that night, as well as previously unreleased behind-the-scenes footage, a live television event that shocked an entire nation. The program begins, and Gus announces Jack's arrival, but when the doors open, no one is there. Gus acts confused until Jack appears dressed as a ghost and scares him. Jack greets the audience and thanks them for allowing him into their homes once again, telling them they have an amazing show prepared to celebrate all the diabolical fun of Halloween. Gus has brought a theremin to the set, a musical instrument played without touching it, and Jack jokes that it isn't music but the sound you get when tuning a car radio, searching for a station. Jack gets sincere with the audience and reminds them it is Sweeps Week, the most important rating period of the year, but adds that the only person who really matters in this whole crazy business is the viewer, as it was their support that brought him back to the studio a year ago when he could have thrown in the towel. Jack announces that interest in the occult has seen a massive resurgence in recent years, and that his first guest of the night is a shining light in this movement. Some call him a medium, others a spiritualist, and some have even called him a miracle worker. So Jack introduces the mysterious Christou. Christou explains that Halloween night is a time to open the doors to the underworld, as it is the last chance for the spirits of the recently departed to finish any unfinished business before the veil between worlds closes again. Jack asks for a demonstration of his abilities, and the medium closes his eyes, saying he can hear a voice coming toward him with a name that sounds like Peterson. A man in the audience stands up, saying his ex-wife's maiden name was Peterman, but when Christou tries to connect with her, the man clarifies that she isn't dead, she simply left him for the neighbor, which provokes laughter from the audience. Christou tries again, and this time he hears the name Edmund. 2 women in the audience react, as Edmund was the name of their son and brother, respectively, who took his own life 5 years ago. The medium tells them that Edmund regrets the suffering he caused, that his heart is full of love, and that he is now at peace. The audience is moved, and Jack prepares to cut to commercial when suddenly Christo screams in pain. The medium claims to be receiving a very intense signal and mentions the name Minnie, asking if anyone knows a Minnie. He can see a wedding ring and a single man with great sadness. Christo's eyes roll back, the set lights flicker, and the audience gets spooked, but Jack calms them down, saying it's just the old electrical panels acting up. Christo says the spirit is gone, and Jack sends it to a commercial break. During the break, Leo congratulates Christo on the fantastic segment and asks if he's willing to stay a little longer, while Jack notices that Christo has blood under his nose. The show returns to the air, and Jack introduces his next guest, a former magician known as Carmichael the Conjurer, who has now become one of the leading voices of the skeptic movement. Jack reminds him that his group hypnosis routine was the first of its kind, and that many considered him the best in the business, to which Carmichael responds with total confidence that that is correct in all respects. Carmichael explains that his mission is to test paranormal claims and determine what is deception and what might be genuine phenomena. He notes that, so far, he offers a not insignificant reward of $100,000 for anyone whose claims can be verified, though he admits he hasn't had to part with a dime yet. Jack assures him that tonight might be the night he loses that check, but first presents a video to provide context on his next guests. The video shows a seemingly ordinary house that turns out to be the headquarters of the infamous First Church of Abraxas, a cult led by the enigmatic Xandor. The cult leader explains that Abraxas shows them there is no good or evil, only what they desire and how to obtain it, but warns that the master demands sacrifice. The cult's activities call the attention of the FBI, who suspect kidnappings and firearms offenses, but even more alarming are the stories of children raised for human sacrifice. Xandor claims that anyone who witnesses these terrible rituals will fall under the spell of the demon Abraxas. Events take a tragic turn in August of '74 when federal agencies lay siege to the house, and after a tense 3-day standoff, Xandor orders his followers to douse the place and themselves in gasoline and set it on fire. But notably, among the smoking rubble, a terrified 10-year-old girl is discovered. She only answers to the name Lily, and her memories of her time in the house are fractured and incomplete. Dr. June explains that she and Lily formed an immediate connection and that there have been important breakthroughs, but much work remains to be done. The video shows a snippet of one of their first sessions where June attempts to communicate with the entity inhabiting Lily. Jack welcomes Dr. June and Lily, and the girl greets the audience with a smile, while June appears more reserved. Jack tells Lily she doesn't have to look at the camera and can speak directly to him. When he asks if she has ever seen his show, she replies that she is usually asleep by that time, but she knows who he is. Lily mentions that June says Jack is very handsome, and then adds that he is the man whose wife died of cancer, which takes everyone by surprise. Lily tells Jack that she was very sad when she heard that, as she knows what it's like to lose people close to you, adding that it's lonely at first, but he will get over it. Furthermore, she tells him he shouldn't worry about his TV show because she believes he will soon become very famous. Jack goes to commercials, promising that upon return, we will get to know these two extraordinary ladies better. During the break, June speaks alone with Jack and tells him she really doesn't think it's a good idea to continue, as Lily is becoming more unpredictable. The day before, the girl entered one of her fugue states and began saying Jack's name, not as if she were excited to be on the show, but as if she were remembering something. Jack insists that June is ready for this and that it is her moment, but she responds that her primary responsibility is to Lily and that it is too risky. Leo approaches Jack and delivers terrible news. Christo is dead. Apparently, he suffered some kind of hemorrhage in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Jack is shocked, having thought all the vomiting was part of the act. But Leo tells him that he was essentially spewing fluids from everywhere and the paramedics couldn't control it. Jack asks him to keep a lid on it. He specifically doesn't want the rest of the crew to get spooked. The show returns to the air, and June explains that Lily is exhibiting something called psychic infestation, commonly known as demonic possession, and that she has spent the last few years investigating what is happening with the girl. She believes the entity living inside Lily is not Abraxas, but a lesser servant Lily calls Mr. Wiggles, because, according to the child, he has to wiggle from side to side to enter and exit her head. Suddenly, The theremin Gus brought starts screeching, and several glass objects on set shatter. Carmichael runs to unplug it and tells the audience not to panic, stating that what just happened was simply physics obeying its laws, much like when sopranos break wine glasses with high notes. Jack asks Lily if it would be possible to invite Mr. Wiggles onto the show. Although June insists that a conjuring requires a carefully controlled environment, Carmichael intervenes, offering $500,000 if they can prove the possession is real. Under pressure from the audience and Jack, June finally agrees to attempt a brief demonstration, and Jack announces that after the commercials, they will attempt to communicate with the devil live for the first time in television history. During the break, June confronts Jack for ambushing her despite all her warnings. Gus approaches Jack and confesses that he knows about Christo. He's terrified, and some of the crew are thinking about walking off the show. Gus begs his friend to stop all of this before something terrible happens, but Jack replies that he is just trying to save the goddamn show. The show comes back on air, and June asks everyone to remain calm, regardless of what they see or hear, as it is vital that Lily's focus remains on her. The doctor asks Lily to close her eyes and relax, guiding her into a trance state. After a moment of silence, June asks if she can speak with the one she knows as Mr. Wiggles. Lily's voice changes completely, and the entity asks who all these people are and where it is. June tries to soothe it, saying they won't harm it and only want to understand its purpose, but then the entity looks at Jack and says it's good to see him again. Jack replies that he doesn't believe they've met, but the demon tells him not to be silly, that they met a long time ago among the tall trees. June attempts to regain control by asking Lily to come back to her, but the entity warns her in a mocking tone to be careful, reminding her of what happened to Jack's late wife, who died a horrible death. The demon begins to mock the relationship between Jack and June, singing obscenities about them until June loses her patience and slaps Lily. The girl seems to snap out of it, and June apologizes profusely for striking her, but then the entity seizes control again and asks Jack how he could let that happen. The chair where Lily is tied begins to levitate off the floor while the audience screams in terror. June recites an incantation and uses a medallion to try to control the entity, and finally, the chair settles back down and Lily seems to regain control. Jack throws to commercial, and during the break, he tells June that it was incredible and could become a regular segment on the show. June asks him what the comment about the tall trees meant, but Jack insists he has no idea. Meanwhile, Leo informs Jack that the network executives are thrilled and that they have hit the highest ratings peak they have ever reached. The show returns, and Carmichael declares that this is all inconceivable, that it is simply a well-staged spectacle where the only victim is poor Lily, whom the doctor has subjected to an overly deep state of hypnosis. To prove his point, Carmichael asks for a volunteer, and Gus is chosen. The former magician takes out a pocket watch and begins to hypnotize both Gus and the entire studio audience. Carmichael asks Gus about his fear of worms, and Gus explains that they are horrible creatures, armless, legless, eyeless, that thrive in dark, damp places. The magician snaps his fingers, and Gus falls under his control. Soon, Gus begins to feel intensely hot and itchy. He finds a gash in his neck from which worms begin to crawl out, and he goes into total panic as he feels these creatures moving inside his body. Carmichael speaks the wake-up command, and Gus snaps out of it, completely fine and remembering nothing of what happened. Jack asks what the hell just happened, and Carmichael explains that he did exactly the same thing as June, just with a little more imagination. He managed to hypnotize almost everyone in the studio and likely many viewers at home, proving that it is all suggestion. Lily suggests that if Carmichael believes her possession was also hypnosis, they should play back the recording of that moment. June says they have already put Lily under too much stress, but the girl insists on staying because she wants everyone to see the truth. Production plays the tape, and everyone confirms that what happened with Lily was real. The guttural voice is there, and the transformation of her face is visible. Jack asks them to stop the video and play it frame by frame, and that is when he manages to see a figure standing next to him. It is Madeline. Jack is paralyzed while Carmichael insists that this is all a conspiracy orchestrated by the host to save his show. At that moment, Lily begins to feel very ill and appears to be surrounded by arcs of electricity. Jack tries to help her, but receives a shock when he touches her. The girl screams as her appearance transforms into something monstrous. Gus pulls out a crucifix and attempts to confront the demon by invoking the power of Christ, but the entity snaps his neck just by looking at him. June tries to control the creature with her medallion, but the demon lifts her into the air and strangles her. Carmichael falls to his knees and begs the demon to accept him as its servant, but the entity finishes him off in a gruesome manner as well. Jack manages to escape the set but is immediately transported to a sort of alternate reality where he relives moments from his show throughout the years. He appears in old sketches, past interviews, and finally in the episode where his sick wife made her last appearance. Jack screams at the viewers to turn off their TV sets to stop watching. Then, Jack finds himself back at the moment he signed his contract with the network, surrounded by masked men who turn out to be members of the Grove. The network owner tells him that Jack's greatest sacrifice is yet to come. Jack is taken to a ritual where Xandor, the leader of the Abraxas cult, is also present, and they force him to drink from a chalice. Finally, Jack appears before Madeline on what seems to be her deathbed. She tells him that those men promised he could have it all, be number one, but that a price had to be paid. Jack swears to her that he loves her and that he never thought things would end this way. Madeline tells him that he is now ruined and asks him to do one last thing for her, to end her suffering. Jack sees the ceremonial dagger and, with a broken heart, plunges it into his wife's chest, only to wake up and discover that he has actually just stabbed Lily on the TV set in front of millions of viewers. Around him lie the bodies of Gus, June, and Carmichael. Jack repeats Carmichael's wake-up words over and over, but it is futile because this is real. As police sirens approach the studio, Jack stands in shock, completely destroyed, having lost everything he ever had for a pact he never should have made.